Daf Yomi, Tractate Sanhedrin, page 111b. And it was a Milvan idea from the bottom of 111a, which was saying, when the Jewish people sinned in the sin of the spies, and Moses asked God to forgive them, the Holy One, blessed be, he said to Moses, didn't you say to me that the attribute of slow to anger is for the righteous alone? They are not worthy of atonement. Amar lefanav, top of 111b with the words Amar lefanav. Amar lefanav, Rabbeinu Shalom, lo kach amarta li, af l'reshaim. V'hainu dichtiv, be'ata yivdalna, koach Hashem, kasher dibarta limor. Moses said before him, Master of the universe, and isn't this what you said to me? It is an attribute even for the wicked, and that is the meaning of that which is written. And now I pray you, let the power of my Lord be great, as you have spoken, saying, Numbers 14:17. Moses was repeating God's promise with regard to his employment of the attribute of slow to anger. Rabbi Chaga, Hava Salik, Be'azil Bedarga, Debe Rabbi Shela, Shamelahu Yenoka, De'amar, עדותיך נמנו לבית חנה הקודש, אדוני לאורך ימים. וסמיך לתפילה למשה. אמר שמע מינו אל כפיים רעה. Rabbi Chaga was walking up the stairs in the school of Rabbi Bar Shela. He heard a certain child who said, your testimonies are very sure. Sanctity becomes your house. Lord, for the length of days, Psalms 93:5. The phrase length of days is a reference to the attribute of slow to anger. And juxtaposed to it is the phrase of prayer of Moses, Psalms 90, verse 1, indicating that this chapter was also stated by Moses, our teacher. Upon hearing those verses, Rabbi Chaga said, conclude from it that it was the attribute of slow to anger that Moses saw. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Chanina, Atida Kadosh Baruch Hu, Liot Atara Berosh Kol Tzadik V'Tzadik, Shneimar B'yom Hahu, Yeh Hashem Tzivakot, Leiteret Tzifirat, ולציפירת תפארה לשאר עמו וגומר מיילה תרת צבי ולציפירת תפארה לעושים רצונו ומצפים לישועתו יכול הכל ולומר לשאר עמו למי שמשים עצמו כשיראים. Rabbi Elazar says that, Rabbi Chanina says, the Holy One, blessed be He, is destined to be a crown on the head of each and every righteous person. As it is stated, in that day shall the Lord of hosts be for a crown of glory, and for a diadem of beauty unto the remnant of His people. Isaiah 28:5. What is the meaning of the phrase, for a crown of glory, and for a diadem of beauty? It means a crown for those who perform His will, and a diadem for those who await His salvation. One might have thought that this extends to everyone in those categories. Therefore, the verse states, unto the remnant of His people, meaning that God will be a crown and a diadem to one who humbly establishes himself like a remnant and does not conduct himself with self-importance. ולרוח משפט, ליושב על המשפט ולגבורה, בשבעי מלחמה שערה. ולרוח משפט זה הרודה את יצרו, וליושב על המשפט זה הדין אמת לאמיתו, ולגבורה זה המתגבר ביצרו. בשבעי מלחמה זה שנושא ונותן במלחמתה של תורה. שהרע אלו שמשכימים ומעריבים דברותי כנסיוס וברותי מדרשוis. The Gemara interprets the verse in Isaiah, and for a spirit of justice to him that sits in judgment, and for strength to them who retaliate in battle to the gate. Isaiah 28 verse 6. And for a spirit of justice, this is referring to one who subdues his evil inclination and prevents himself from sinning. To him that sits in judgment, this is referring to one who judges a true judgment truthfully. And for strength, this is referring to one who overcomes his evil inclination. To them retaliate in battle. This is referring to one who gives and takes and engages in the battle, meaning the discourse of Torah. To the gate is referring to those Torah scholars who arrive early and remain late within the gates of synagogues and study halls. Amra midat hadin lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono shel Olam, ma nishtanu elu melu, אמר לה, אמר לה, וגם אלה ביין שגו, ובשיכר טעו, וגומר פקו פלילה. ואין פוקה אלא בגיהנום, שנאמר לא תהיה זאת לך לפוגה. ואין פלילה אלא דיונים, שנאמר ונתן בפלילים. The attribute of justice said before the Holy One, blessed be He, Master of the universe. How do these people who possess these qualities differ from those who engage in Torah study but lack these qualities? God said to the attribute of justice that those others do not receive the crown and diadem because these also reel through wine and stagger through strong drink. They stumble in judgment, Isaiah 28 verse 7, and Puka, in this context, is referring to nothing other than Gehenna, as it is stated that this shall not be a cause of stumbling for you. 1 Samuel 25:31, and the term of Pelila in the verse in Isaiah is referring to nothing other than judges, as it is stated, and he shall pay the judges. Biphilim determine Exodus 21:22. Those who lack the qualities listed in the previous verses are not worthy of the aforementioned reward. New Mishnah. Excuse me for 1 minute. Let's take a break for a second, or a few seconds, or more. And we're back. New Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Anje Yeridachas, Ein Laim Chelek Loilam Habo, Shenemar Yatsu Anashim B'nei Blial Mikirbecha, V'yadichu Es Yoshvi Yiram Limo, Einam Neragim Ad, שיהיו מדיחיה מאותה העיר ומאותו השבט עד שיודח רובה ועד שידיחוה אנשים, הדיחוה אנשים וקטנים, או שהודח מיעוטם, או שהיו madicheha chutzala hare elu ki yechidim utzrichin shneidim v'hatraa lechol echad ve'echad. The residents of an idolatrous city have no share in the world to come. As it is stated, certain men, wicked persons, are gone out from your midst, and have subverted the inhabitants of their city, saying, "Let us go and let us worship other gods." Deuteronomy 13:14. And idol worshippers are not executed as residents of an idolatrous city unless its subverters are from that city and from that tribe. Unless most of the inhabitants of the city are subverted, and unless men subvert the inhabitants of the city. If it occurs that women or children subvert the inhabitants of the city, or that a minority of the inhabitants of the city were subverted, or that its subverters were from outside the city, and were neither residents of that city nor members of that tribe, these idol worshippers are judged as individuals. And to judge the inhabitants of a city, one requires 2 witnesses and forewarning each and every one engaged in idol worship. Zeh chomer b'yechidim מבם ארובים שהיחידים השכילו לפיכך במוינם פלט יאמרו בן בסעיף לפיכך במוינם עבד. This is a stringency with regard to individuals who worship idols that is more stringent than the halacha with regard to multitudes who worship idols. As the individuals who worship idols are executed by stoning, therefore, since there is a stringency with regard to their mode of execution, their property is spared and is inherited by their heirs, and the multitudes are executed by the sword. Therefore, since there is leniency with regard to their mode of execution, their property is eliminated. Hakeh takeh et yoshvei ha'ir hazot levi cherev. החמרס והגמלס והעוברת במקום מקום הרי אלו מצילין אותה. From the verse, "You shall smite the inhabitants of that city with the edge of the sword," Deuteronomy 13:16, is derived. The caravan of donkeys and the caravan of camels that move from place to place, these donkey or camel drivers save the city. If they were residing in the city for a period, they could join the minority of permanent residents who are not subverted to idol worship in order to create a majority and prevent the destruction of the city and its contents. Shneimar, Achrim Motah Abias Kol Asher Ba בהמת לפי חרב. וכאן אמרו, נחצי צדיקים שבתוכה, עובדים שבחוצה לה פליטים. בשל רשעים, בין שבסליחה, בין שבחוצה לה, הרי אלו עובדים. It is stated, destroy it utterly, and all that is in it, and its animals, with the edge of the sword. Deuteronomy 13:16. From here, the stage is stated, the property of the righteous who did not engage in idol worship, that is inside the city, is destroyed with the rest of the city and its contents. But the property of the righteous that is outside the city is spared. And the property of the wicked, whether it is inside the city or whether it is outside the city, these items are destroyed. Shneimar, v'et kol shnala tikbots אל תוך רחובה וגומר אם אין לה רחוב עושים לה רחוב. הייתה רחובה החוצה לה Konsin ota betocha. It is stated, and you shall gather all of its spoils into the midst of its square, Deuteronomy 13:17. If the city has no square, one creates a square for the city in order to fulfill the mitzvah as is written. If there was a square outside the city, they bring it inside the city by expanding the city wall to include the square. The question is, was there ever a real Aaron Nachas, ever in history of all time? There's no evidence that there ever was. Shenemar Isarafta Beish Isa'ir Eskol Shlala Khalil Hashem Logecha Shlala Velo Shlalam Shemayim Velo Shalal Shemayim Bikanabru Ahekdeshot Shiba Yipadu Utrumot Yirkavu Maser Sheni because Kodesh Yiganzu. It is stated in the continuation of the verse, and you shall burn it with fire, both the city and its spoils entirely for the Lord your God. The Mishnah verse, it spoils, but not the spoils of heaven. For here the state is stated, the consecrated property in it, which was no longer the property of its inhabitants, must be redeemed. And terumot are neither eaten nor burned, rather they must be left to decay. And the second tithe and the sacred scrolls that were in the city must be interred. Kli Hashem Kecham Shimon Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Im Atem Osim Din Be'ir Nitachat Ba'alei Ani Alechem Ki'ilu Atem Ma'alim Ola Kli Lefanai. With regard to the phrase entirely for the Lord your God, Rabbi Shimon says, the Holy One, blessed be He, says, if you implement judgment on an idolatrous city, I ascribe you credit as though you have sacrificed an entirely burnt offering before me. Because the Khalil. Ve'haita te'olam lo te'aseh ganot u'pardesim. Divrei Rabbi Yossi Agili. Rabbi Akiva Omer, לא תיבנה עוד לכמות שהייתה אינה נבנית. אבל נעשית היא גנות וברזים. ולא ידבק בידך מאומה מאחרים, שכל זמן שישן באוילם וחריינת באוילם, אבל זה רשם מן אוילם ונסתלק חריינת מן אוילם. It is written, and it shall be a heap forever. Deuteronomy 13:17, meaning the idolatrous city shall not be converted even into gardens and orchards. This is the statement of Yossi Lili. Akiva says, from the end of that verse, it shall not be built again. It is derived to restore it to the way it was before destruction. It may not be built, but it may be converted into gardens and orchards. The next verse states, and there shall cleave nothing of that which was devoted to your hand. Deuteronomy 13:18. This teaches that as long as the wicked exist in the world, there is wrath in the world. Once the wicked are eliminated from the world, the wrath leaves the world. The Gemara says, Tanar Banan Yatsu, Hein V'lo Yishloch Anashim B'Achaz B'Shnayim, Davar Acher, Anashim V'lo Nashim, Nashim V'lo Ketanim. Sages taught in the interpretation verse, certain men, wicked persons, are gone out from your midst and have subverted the inhabitants of their cities, saying, let us go and let us worship other gods that you have not known. Deuteronomy 13:14. From the term argon out is derived that these halachot apply only if they, the subverters themselves, subverted the residents but non-agents whom they destined to subvert. From the term men, it is derived, men in the plural means no less than two. Alternatively, it is derived men but not women, men but not children. Namely, al banim sheparku ol, shemayim yitzavrehem. Bikir becha, below minas asifar. Yehoshua iram, below Yehoshua iram acher. Lemor, shetzrichen edim be'atra'ah, echol echad yechad. The phrase wicked persons, b'nei b'yal, is an abbreviation of banim b'li ol, meaning sons who have cast off the yoke of heaven from their necks. The term from your midst is derived that these halachot apply only to a city located in the center of the country, but not to a city located on the border. For the phrase inhabitants of their city is inferred, but not inhabitants of another city. The term saying alludes to the halakha that in order to convict them, one requires witnesses and forewarning for each day and everyone who worships idols. Itmar Yochanan Amar Chol kin ir achat l'shnei shvatim v'reish lakish amar ein chol kin ir achat l'shnei shvatim. Sofer Yochanan Reish Lakish Ad yubedicheha me'ota ir me'oto shevet ma'elav afal gav timadicheha me'ota ir i'ika me'oto shevet in Ila la shmamina chol ken ir achat l'shnei shvatim. It was stated that there is an Amoraic dispute. Rabbi Yochanan says one divides one city into the tribal territory of two tribes. And Reish Lakish says one does not divide one city into the tribal territory of two tribes. Rabbi Yochanan raised an objection to the opinion of Reish Lakish from the Mishnah, which states, unless its subverters are from that city and from that tribe. What is it not? Although its subverters are from that city, if they are from that tribe, yes, they render the city an idolatrous city. And if not, no, they do not render the city an idolatrous city. Conclude from it that one divides the city into the tribal territory of two tribes, as otherwise, by definition, the resident of that city is a member of that tribe. Lo, the Gemara rejects that proof. No. Even if a city is not divided between two tribes, the scenario in the Mishnah is possible in a case where the property in the city fell to him as an inheritance from the family of his mother, who was from a different tribe. Alternatively, it is possible in a case where they gave him that property as a gift. Esvei Arim Teisha Me'es Shnei Hashvodim Ha'ele Ma'elav Arba Upalga Mehai Arba Upalga Mehai Ushma Mina Chol Ken Irachas L'Shnei Shvotim Lo Arba Mehai V'Chamesh Mehai. Rabbi Yochanan raised an objection to the opinion of Reish Lakish from a verse written with regard to the cities designated for the Levites. It is written 9 cities from those two tribes, Joshua 21:16. What? Is it not that those 9 cities were equally divided? 4.5 from this tribe and 4.5 from that tribe? And conclude from it that one divides one city into the tribal territory of two tribes. The Gemara rejects that proof. No. Those 9 cities were divided in this manner. 4 cities from this tribe and 5 cities from that tribe. There weren't any half tribes per city. Ihachi lifrosh padushe. The Gemara asks, if so, let the verse state explicitly from which tribe the additional city was taken.